Hey, shalom. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Sister Kate. Even though you can't see me, I am traveling early in the morning, and I took the first edition of this video. I shot it a little bit earlier and you couldn't see anything, and there was a little bit of light. You can just now start seeing lights. Anyway, that's your intro right there. The video is about an interview I heard this morning on NPR about the Proud Boys and Antifa in Portland, Oregon. The journalist was there and interviewed both representatives for each group. The Proud Boy representative's name was Rob, and the Antifa representative's name was Luis. And so I haven't watched a whole lot of their videos. I've kind of peered over the shoulder of my husband, who's watched a lot of the videos that are on scene when these two groups meet. And the impression I got from this interview was the Proud Boy, Rob, was definitely for free speech. He was definitely for First Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights. And the Antifa person, Luis, was very intolerant. His point of view was that the Proud Boys should not be allowed to voice their opinions. And immediately I thought, the interview was very biased in that way, but I also thought Luis, for being an anti-fascist, was very, very intolerant, like I said. And supposedly fascists are very intolerant. So it just struck me how the people who are hiding behind the Antifa black face masks are really scared. Luis was a gay man. I don't even know how to phrase it. I mean, it just, the way he talked and the things he said gave me the impression that he strikes out at everything he doesn't agree with and doesn't understand. The journalist, I give him credit. You can look, you can see a little bit of light coming up behind me. I give him credit because he got Rob and Luis to sit down and have a conversation. And I found what they said very telling. Luis said, I think Rob, the Proud Boy, is racist. He is misogynistic. He is uneducated, and he's violent. And the Proud Boy, Rob, he was not as effusive in his speech. He tended to be a lot more monosyllabic, but he was not stupid. And he said he was a misanthrope, which, I'm like, okay, I've heard that word. I'm not exactly sure what it means. But Luis knew what it meant. It meant he's anti-people. He said people suck. And I thought that was kind of an interesting point of view, because if he's a racist or misogynistic, he's going to say, yeah, women are stupid, or I hate people of color. But he was basically just doesn't like people at all, and yet he's for freedom. He's for free speech. So how can you hate people and yet want people to enjoy the rights that God gave them? I found that interesting. And then Luis, for someone who's supposedly anti-whatever he's anti-racism, anti-sexism, he was educated enough to know what misanthrope meant, but he had already been arrested 7 times. And in the first couple of minutes of the interview, he admitted, and the journalist described his group as, whenever the Proud Boys are protesting in the street, they go out and counter protest. And so, to me, that's an aggressive stance. If I know that, you know, the people who love cats more than anything are doing a march in Portland. My immediate response would not be, oh, I'm a dog person, I need to get down there, protest these cat people. I'm anti-feline, I'm pro-dog. No. So there's a mentality there already in Luis to be aggressive, to be taking a stance and acting on it without even totally understanding or knowing his enemy. He had already painted Rob as an other. You're a racist, you're a misogynist, you're uneducated. And he had never spoken to him until that interview, except when he was wearing the black mask. So, I mean, the reporting was biased so that you had sympathy with Luis and the Antifa people. And another way the journalist made that clear was he said, the way you think of Antifa, when I think of Antifa, when anyone thinks of Antifa, they think of being counter-protesting to right-wing protests. And I thought right there in that description, it already reveals that he, Luis, and also that the journalist, because I never did get his name, see Antifa as being nonviolent. When I think of Antifa, the first thing that comes to my mind is them illegally protesting and destruction of property and being very confrontational. So how can you be not violent and confrontational? I think there's a essential blindness to the Antifa people to what they're actually doing. And when you think about it, the Proud Boys wear t-shirts, but you see their faces. Antifa covers up their faces. They are trying to make their anonymity be a uniform, and they're wearing black because it's supposed to strike fear in the hearts of people who look upon them, and that in itself is aggressive. So I think Luis is more aggressive, more confrontational than Rob. And the Proud Boys, I know, get a license to do their protests, which is legal in our country. And when you counter-protest like Antifa does, you are actually being illegal. So what I took away from that interview was how blind the Antifa person was to his real intent, how biased the journalist was towards the Antifa people being harmless, and also the polarization of our society. When you have two groups who are so thoroughly in opposition to each other, and it's become a thing with them for the one to protest and the other to counter-protest, and they don't seem to be making any progress. When they were talking in the interview, Luis sounded like he was understanding. The journalist said, you know, here's a clip of you both, you're saying violent things, and Luis said, yep, that's violent, and I do admit that, and I feel bad about it. And Rob was sort of like, yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with what I'm doing, because he's saying that not because he thinks violent is good, but he's saying that because he's sticking up for being able to say whatever you want. But the polarization of the society is not a good thing. And as Pastor Joe said in a recent video, we are losing our national will. We are being fragmented, and it's intentional. It's methodical, just by how the Antifa people have been trained. The way they do what they do is taught to them by socialists who are trying to get their political agenda in the eyes of the common people. And by getting it on the news, they are getting that. They are successful in that goal. It's really interesting. I think it would be worth your while to do a little research on the two groups and to make up your own mind about these groups that are diametrically opposed to each other and yet very much part of our political picture. And then to think about what you would do if they came to your area and were doing these protests in your town. All right. I hope this has been helpful. Bless you all. Look at that beautiful dawn. Shalom. There I am. Shalom.